Good afternoon, everyone. I am Thankful, and today we're going to be reading Out in the Cold by Esper Derrick. A cloudless, star-filled night. The moon hung low in the sky, bathing the small town of Ponyville in its shimmering light. It really was the perfect night. Well, at least, if it weren't for the terrified screams of the small town's residents and the terrifying roars of the creature pursuing them. The Ursa had returned, its shimmering, semi-translucent form crashing through the town with a vengeance. A sweep of its claw took off the roof of the bakery, its roar toppled the dress shop, and an elaborately designed building rendered down to splinters and scrap. Ponies fled, or cowered in their homes, hoping beyond hope for some sort of savior to defeat this terrible beast. It seemed that, perhaps, these cowards would be granted their wish. 4 ponies stood before the ravening starlit beast, their leader a purple-furred unicorn, her visage twisted by the arrogance that was present within the depths of her heart. She took the lead, standing in front of the other 3, who cowered and shook, trying to keep the terror they were feeling from overwhelming them. They looked hopefully at their leader. "I tried roping it, but it's too big," cried this stupid orange hayseed. "I tried flying at it, but I just bounced off," whimpered the annoying blue Pegasus. "Please, Twilight, you have to do something," sobbed the egotistical white unicorn. Twilight scowled at the 3, and then turned her head towards the Ursa, an arrogant grin spreading. Her horn began to glimmer, her feet digging into the ground. "Of course I will. I'm Twilight Sparkle, after all, and I'll do just what I did before." The arrogant pony called out as her horn sparked brightly. Wind flowed around the ponies, carrying lulling music with it, designed to sate and stun the beast into a stupor. The 3 brightened, watching as the Ursa twisted and shuddered, its eyes glowing glassy. "It's working!" they cried out in triumph. Then the Ursa blinked. Its eyes narrowed, and with a sweep of its paw it sent Twilight sprawling, the light of her horn dying out. She groaned softly, putting a hoof to her head, trying to regain her senses. Her 3 friends' eyes widened, and then they took off, fleeing in the opposite direction from the Ursa. The purple unicorn's eyes widened as her friends abandoned her to her no doubt grisly fate. "Wait," she whimpered, and another roar caused her head to turn. The Ursa was advancing on her. She lets out a tiny whimper, tears springing from her eyes. Surely her end was just seconds away, left behind by the ponies she thought were her friends. She closed her eyes, about to accept her fate, feeling the air of the onrushing claw heading towards her. The blow never landed. Twilight dared to open one eye and let out a gasp. In between her and the Ursa was the most beautiful pony Twilight had ever seen, her pelt the vivid blue of a beautiful night, her hair as silvery as starlight, her horn was shimmering with power far greater than Twilight could have ever managed, as she held the Ursa in place with her great and powerful magic. "Hold, Ursa! I, the great and powerful Trixie, shall not allow you to do any more damage to this town. I banish you back to the Everfree Forest, from whence you shall never return." The heroic, daring, and beautiful pony proclaimed, a smile of confidence playing on her face, adding to her beauty. She flicked her head as if she were shooing away a bug. In response, the Ursa went flying, its titanic form showing the surprise it was feeling as this small, yet potent unicorn sent it through the sky. That was the last one could make out of the beast as it disappeared over the horizon. The great and powerful Trixie exhaled softly and turned to look at the sprawled-out pony she had just saved. "There. It's a good thing the great and powerful Trixie was just passing through, Twilight. Did you really think the same trick would work twice? Silly fool!" Great and powerful Trixie's voice trailed off as he faced the snuffling unicorn. Now that she was up close, she really was a beautiful pony, she had to admit. Not as beautiful as herself, of course, but close. So close. Trixie felt her heart starting to patter, and she tried not to let that red blush appear on her cheeks. You really are great and powerful, the adorable Twilight admitted, her eyes depicting the heart that had been so recently broken in half. My friends, they abandoned me, she whimpered, tears rolling down her cheeks. Trixie smiled gently, reached out, stroking away the tears with a hoof. It's all right. The great and power... No. I'm here, the blue-pelted filly murmured, bringing her muzzle closer to Twilight's own. Pony shivers slightly from her proximity, her watery eyes looking hopefully at Trixie. You won't leave me? Twilight murmured. Trixie shook her head gently. You'll make a perfect assistant. No, partner for me. You could be the equal to the great and powerful Trixie, Trixie replied, playful and loving, and brought her muzzle forwards. Twilight didn't resist, and the two fillies pressed together in a desperate, loving kiss, their hooves starting to interlock, their hearts beating quicker, and Twilight's hooves slowly started to slide further down towards the warmest place of... Wah! Trixie bolted awake. She shivered, but it wasn't the cool of the night air that was causing it. She steeled herself, trying to force away the warmth that was still racing through her body and the heat between her legs, and trying to calm her heart that was rampaging through her chest. Treacherous, subconscious. That wasn't how this dream was supposed to go. Trixie murmured to herself as she slowly forced herself to get into a sitting position. It was night time, and the small fire she had built for herself using her magic had apparently gone out hours ago. She tentatively flicked the ashes, as though hoping it would somehow ignite again. But it was clear that wasn't going to happen. With a sigh, Trixie stood. It was clear that sleep was going to be an impossibility at this point. Not that she wanted sleep, not if it meant going back to... Her heart was racing again. No! The great and powerful Trixie was not weak. She wasn't attracted to Twilight's sparkle. She was the enemy, the one who had humiliated her in front of every pony in that flea-bitten town. The one who had forced her to run away like a coward. To be attracted to her was completely insane! Not that running like she had been her brightest move, the great and powerful Trixie had to admit. In her panic, to save some sort of face after her defeat, she had left behind her elements. She had left behind her trailer and the contents wearing. Sleeping on the ground had exposed her to the elements, and that wasn't exactly what she would call fun, and was starting to wear even on her beauty. Her hair was starting to lose its silvery sheen under the dirt and grime, and her pelt wasn't exactly prime. But there was no way she was going back to that place, with her tail between her legs. She would simply have to keep going. Surely there would be some hamlet or village soon. She would use her tricks to wow the locals, get a little money, and things would go back to normal. Everything was replaceable. Well, almost everything. Magic books, her hat and cloak. Losing those hurt. Just thinking about those made her want to turn around, almost enough to swallow her pride, to go back to Ponyville. Losing those felt like a betrayal. Betrayal to no! Trixie repeated to herself, pushing down the sudden but familiar pain that she was feeling. There's no point wallowing in the past. She would simply have to move on. She was the great and powerful Trixie after all. There was no way she could be vanquished, least of all by herself. She forced herself back down to a lying position. Things would look better in the morning. She would feel like herself in the morning. The great and powerful Trixie. Until then, she would force herself to sleep, deny both the warmth of attraction and the pain and cold of loss, and access to her mind and body. The great and powerful Trixie closed her eyes and waited for morning to come. Her hooves hurt. It's really amazing how much her hooves hurt. Professor wasn't exactly feeling great, or powerful for that matter. The sun was beating down on her back, and there was this annoying fly who kept landing on her flank no matter how many times she tried to shoo it away. She'd been walking for hours, forcing her body to keep moving, even through the lack of sleep. Trixie was determined to find some sort of shelter before night fell, or else she would be forced to confront another night of restless sleep on the hard ground. Not for the first time, Trixie wished she had managed to save the map she had in her trailer. The terrain, she swore, was the same